Hi guys, JP from FSI Panel. Welcome to this new video. I'm going to answer one of my community pilot question on how to fly the RNAV 30 approach in Tucson, especially when we want to fly from Gila Bend, VOR, what altitude should you start, and how to fly this correctly. So I'm loaded here, the Southwest 737-800 PMDG. We are in Tucson on runway 30. And we are going to check what we have to do today. So let's have a look first at what the STAR will be and the transition and the RNAV approach. Okay, so in that specific flight, the pilot would like to start the flight at Gila Bend. You can see on the left side of your screen now the VOR Gila Bend. And if you select a STAR or pilot waypoint at Gila Bend, then FSI Panel will suggest 10,000 feet as there is no altitude restrictions there. We can see the minimum altitude en route here over the segment as we are flying from Gila Bend to Stanfield, to Bazer, to Dingo, and finally we will end up in Mava, which is the initial approach fix of our RNAV approach. So basically now, what altitude should I start my flight right there? Or let's say 5 miles west of Gila Bend, if we want to have a nice and easy VNAV descent. So for that, we are going to compute using the rule of 3, and I will show you how you can do that. First, we need to know what is the total distance. So if you look from Gila Bend to Stanfield, we have 38.9 nautical miles. Then we will continue on 133 track toward Bazer for another 24.5 nautical miles. After that, we are going to turn left, heading 115 to Dingo, 5.5 nautical miles. And finally, we have the last segment from Dingo to Mava, where we will be flying 13 nautical miles. So the total distance here from Gila Bend to the initial approach fix Mava is around 82 nautical miles. So we can round it up to 82 nautical miles. So now we are going to use a rule of 3. And as you can see, very easy. You take 82, you divide it by 3, so it's around 27. So 27 times 1,000, so 27,000 feet. So if we're at 27,000 feet here and we have a 3 degrees descent, we will end up at Mava at 0 feet. But we want to be at 8,000 feet. So we have to do one thing extra here, add 8,000 feet or target altitude to the calculation. So basically you could start your flight at 35,000 feet at Gila Bend, and then the aircraft will be able to do a 3 degrees descent to Mava. Some stuff to keep in mind though, if the aircraft is heavy and you need to slow down, anticipate as well that there is the inertia. So always take a little bit of margin when you compute this kind of altitude. Now with FSI Panel, if you do pilot waypoint, the maximum altitude is 31,000 feet, so that's fine for us. So today we are going to use 31,000 feet in our example, and you will see that we can compute something very nice and have the FMC doing a perfect stabilized descent all the way down to Tucson, where we are going to fly the RNAV approach. All right, so let's continue. All right, and this is now the RNAV approach that we are going to fly, the RNAV Zulu runway 30. And instead of flying the Dingo6 arrival all the way to Mava, ATC will clear us for the RNAV Zulu runway 30 when we approach Dingo. So then we can fly the Dingo transition, as you can see now on your screen, starting at Dingo with the following altitude restriction. So Dingo, we computed 8,000 feet, so should not be any issue with the VNAV. And then we are going to fly Dingo to Ugiti 8,000. And from there, we can descend to 7,000 feet all the way to the end of downwind. You can see the waypoint Waxes. There, we can descend to 6,200 feet for the base segment. And here, it's very important that we start the turn here because we have terrain then after on the east and south of Waxes. So that's important that LNAV is fully functional there. And then we are going to Atoge, where we will descend to 4,500 feet. To the waypoint Saxi. Then from Saxi, we are going to fly a constant descent with a glide path angle of 3.18 degrees that we will check on the FMC. And our minimum flying LNAV VNAV on our 737 is 3,029 feet For this approach, we have very high MSA, as you can see, 10,600 feet, the highest. You can see it on the screen with the arrow right there is north here of our approach, so northeast of the airfield at 8,664 feet. So high terrain in southeast of the airport. So MSA quite high, and finally, in case we go missed, very straightforward. We go straight ahead, climb to 6,800 feet to veggie waypoint, so we make sure we have LNAV engaged, and then we continue to PMA 6,000, we can join the hold. So not a big deal. So now let's prepare that in the aircraft using FSI Panel, and let's fly that together and see how it works. The idea here is to fly everything in automation so that we have an easy life. We will let the aircraft slow down, descend, and do everything by herself. So let's start this flight. All right, so here we are in FSI Panel now, and we are going to prepare our pilot waypoint in order to start flying from RNAV and VOR, and we will see how easily we can fly this approach using LNAV and VNAV. So we are in Tucson, runway 30, the aircraft is a 737-800. I will go select fix. And we could create a pilot waypoint over RNAV, but as we want to fly the Dingo6 arrival, we should find that into the star here. So we can just go select star, select the Dingo6 arrival, and you can see RNAV, and just select RNAV. Now we have the correct waypoint. Now you can see the heading. So that's the heading you want the aircraft to be once you are positioned in the air. So from RNAV, we can see on the star that we track 082 outbound, so I will select 082, so I click on the number and I will just put 082. The altitude as default, as there is no restriction, FSI Panel will just set 10,000 feet, and we just computed that we could go at 35,000 feet, but maximum here, remember, is 31,000, so I'm just going to put 31,000 feet. Then the offset, how many miles you want to be out of the VOR. So let's put 5 miles so we have time to program everything. We can leave it like this and click on validate. Good. So now before I move the aircraft, I will just set the weight, and we will see how easily we can do that. So if I click move aircraft, the aircraft is overweight. So I will select a new load. The aircraft is in pound for the Southwest livery. So for the fuel on board, let's put around 9,000 pounds remaining fuel, and we are going to reduce a little bit the weight of the aircraft now. All right, so let's put 130 tons, 130,000 pounds, 9 tons of 9,000 pounds of fuel. We are good to go. I'm going to click update the load, and then FSI Panel will position the aircraft in the air, and then we will see everything that is required in order to fly this approach. So let's click update the load. We go to the sim in our cockpit, and I forgot to open the FSI Panel message, so that's why it's not going to start, and now it will. All right, so let's see what happened. Flaps should be moving up as we are going to 31,000 feet, and then the aircraft will be going airborne. Only thing you have to make sure, parking brake release, and here we go. Just wait for FSI Panel to do everything. It will take another 30 or 40 seconds, and we'll be ready to program our approach. Going down to flight level 310, you can see that we have the altimeter setting right now, which is still not standard. So here you could push standard, but my advice, wait until FSI Panel gives you the control, and then while you are in position freeze, adjust your altimeter setting, just to avoid to interfere with FSI Panel. So we are reaching 31,000, flight level 310, alt wide. The speed is quite low. So here I will just increase my speed to maintain that speed for now. And once we are stable at flight level 310, we are going to get the control. Here we go. Aircraft ready. Hold your brake to take control. Perfect. So now you can go standard. If there is a difference between the altimeter setting that FSI Panel has set and standard, now you could use vertical speed to climb or descend as required. And now we can see that we are stable at flight level 310. So now let's program this box while the aircraft is in position freeze. So right now we should have all the lights off as we are still at cruising altitude. Everything is like 31,000 here. We have the airport elevation of Tucson right there. So everything has been set for us and we just need to program our approach. So let's program this FMC now. We are going to departure arrival and we are going to select our RNAV Zulu. We have our star here, Dingo6 runway 30. The transition is via Gila Bend. And the transition there, we said we are going to depart from Dingo to fly the RNAV 30. All right, let's have a look now on the plan page because sometimes you need to fix some things. So let's have a look. First of all, we put Dingo on top. So we have 5 miles as expected. That's fine. We can see that we are coming close to Gila Bend. We are still in position freeze. And after that, to TFD as expected. From TFD to Buzzer as expected. Buzzer to Dingo. And now this is where the star is different. The star will go to Mava, but the transition is from Dingo. So what you need to do here is update your FMC with taking the Dingo from here, which is the correct transition to the RNAV approach, and put it instead of that Dingo here and execute. All right, so now if we look at that again, we have Gila Bend going to TFD, to Buzzer, to Dingo, and then we continue and we have the whole approach with the steps. Everything is there. Very nice. So now we know that we have the correct approach into the box. Now look at your progress page. It doesn't look nice, right? We are missing top of descent. We are missing a lot of information right there. The reason is the FMC doesn't have any altitude, any cruise altitude for reference. So let's go to cruise page. And here we are going to put flight level 310. Now, if I do that and execute, right away, I'm going to have a top of descent in 25 miles, and I'm going to have some information. Now, again, if we go to cruise page, you can see right now that the target speed right now by my FMC is 0.749. Right now, I'm flying 739. So she will increase the speed to 749. If you're not happy with that, you can change it. If you want to change it, let's say you want to fly 76. You cannot do it on the PMDG right there. Oh, it works now. Sometimes it doesn't work. If it doesn't work, you just need to go to long range cruise and then update this value to 7.6. So now basically we tell our FMC that we would like to cruise at 7.6. So I'm expecting my speed to increase to 7.6 as soon as I push VNAV. Now let's have a look at the descent page. On the descent page, now the FMC will compute as well the descent speed. So you can see that we are going to start our descent at 7.6, which is perfect. So it means the auto throttle can retard. There is no loss of speed. So it will retard and descend at 7.6 until it reaches 273 knots, which is basically that speed right now. So we'll be higher than the speed we reach to 7.3, and then she will continue with the speed in indicated airspeed. We have the speed restriction to 40 knots below 10,000 as always, and that's about it. So basically now we have programmed everything. We are just going to do the rest once we fly, as we have quite a bit of time, so there is no rush. We have checked everything there, so we can go ahead, take the control, and see what happened. So I'm going to go in map. I'm going to hold my brake for 3 seconds. And now I can go LNAV, VNAV. As expected, the speed is increasing, and the aircraft is now flying the arrival. Now we are going to start our briefing, and from time to time I will probably increase the video speed so that you don't have to watch the whole descent and everything, as it might be boring. So what you want to see is how the aircraft is reducing the speed, how the aircraft is going and following the the altitude restrictions, and you will see that the 737, if it's nicely programmed, you basically just watch the show and finish your coffee. So we are doing the RNAV Zulu runway 30, MSA 10,600 feet, which is the highest, east of the airfield. Then we're expecting the transition via Dingo. So Dingo, I have 8,000 or above on the chart. Here, if I look here, we have 12,000 or above, so we can basically change it. I don't see any reason to stay at 12,000 or above. So we are just going to put 8,000 or above as per the chart. Now you see that you have 32 miles here. So, and the same altitude as Ugeti. So basically the 12,000 or above will not hurt. So now if you want to give some try here, delete that altitude and execute. Now you will see what altitude the aircraft plans to fly. So basically it will fly at flight level 193 over Dingo, and there is no problem there. So that's fine. Basically, we can just keep that altitude and we will for sure be 8,000 or above at Dingo. Now we have a top of descent. We're expecting a constant descent. So we will get a message from the FMC telling us that we need to reset the altitude. So top of descent is coming now in 4 miles, and we get the reset MCP altitude. So I'm going to request descent. Southwest 106, we are ready for descent.
Southwest 106, descend via star 17,000 feet, altimeter 2992.
Roger, descend 17,000 feet, altimeter 2992, Southwest 106. Okay, so we got our descent clearance 170. That's the only thing I have to set. And from there, the aircraft will start descent. You can see now retard. So the auto throttle will retard slowly to idle. And once we reach idle, we will get the message arm. So basically the auto throttle is now ready in case the aircraft level off to add thrust. So that's what you see now. Slowly the aircraft is retarding, starting the descent. It's going to be an idle descent. And once the thrust reach idle, the mode here will revert to arm. Let's see that. Arm. Perfect. Now we don't forget that we have cabin crew and passengers, so the seatbelt sign. We just cycle the seatbelt sign that it was already on, so they know we started our descent. Perfect. So we are coming from this transition. We briefed the Dingo, 6,000, 8,000 or above. So for us, no problem here. Ugeti, 8,000 or above. Then we have Iveri, 7,000 or above. Then Waxus, still at 7,000. That's the end of downwind. Then Atoji, 6,200 or above. And finally, coming to Saxi, 4,500. And finally, we have the 3.13 degrees descent toward runway 30. So that's within the tolerance. 3.18 versus 3.13. That's good. It's less than 0.1. So we can accept this approach. Fine. Now what we are going to set, our approach speed. So flaps 30, 145. So my final approach speed will be 150 with 5 knots wind additive. We're going to check that on final. Then we need to program a couple of things on the box here. First of all, what I will do is Saxi, which is where I'm going to have my final descent to the runway. I will take it and put it as a fix. And I will put 2 miles. This is for the aircraft configuration, and I will talk about that once we reach that waypoint. Then what we need to do in POGS page 4, we need to set what we want as RNP approach tolerances for our approach. So usually what we set is 0.3 nautical miles in lateral navigation. And you can set it right away or wait to do it later. Usually what I do it right away. Then it's out of my mind and it's already done. 0.3 and the vertical we want 125. So now that will give you here in your NPS, navigation precision scale, you can see that you have 0.3 laterally and 125 vertically. This is actually the same information right there. So the aircraft is doing a good job descending nicely. we can continue on the FMC. Another thing you want to do if you fly RNAV is to go into the position page. You go to position page number 3 and you click on nav status. On nav status, then you go page 2, and now you can see that the aircraft is using DME, VOR, and localizer and GPS to update its position. So basically here you can, when we fly RNAV approach, we only want to use GPS update. Maybe we have some VOR that are under maintenance. Maybe it's blocked by some mountains. So you don't want to use any of this station to update your position while you are flying GPS, basically an RNAV approach. So what we do, we deselect DME, we deselect VOR, and we deselect localizer. We keep only GPS update. Good. So now this is done. I have set my minimum. I will compute the landing distance required. So let's go ahead and have a look there. Landing en route, as we are already flying, we are going to Tucson. We are landing on runway 30. Runway is dry. Let's get the aircraft weight. And we are going to land in flaps 30, packs on, anti-ice off. And we can use all operational for the reversers. Let's try auto brake 2, see if it works. And we said we want to use 5 knots. Weather-wise, 1408 knots. So we're going to have 8 knots tailwind. It's still acceptable for us. Lucky for me, as I wanted to demonstrate the RNAV approach for my community pilot. So that's good. 18 degrees, 1014 in the hectopascal. Let's calculate, and we see that there is no problem. So we can use auto brake 2, which is already set right there. Perfect. Aircraft descending, drag required. See, now the aircraft is complaining because you have a high speed, slightly above what she wants for descent, but there is plenty of track miles. So here I will not rush into the speed brake. No need. Just keep in mind that the speed stays within this area, and later on, if you need, you can start to slow down. So we are good with the approach here. We are going to set now the final approach track here, 306 as a reference. Same on NAV2.
Southwest 106, continue descend 9,000 feet, altimeter 2992.
Southwest 106, Roger, continue descend 900,000 feet, altimeter 2992. 900,000 feet, set. So the aircraft will continue descent. And what we want to do as well is remove the ILS. Makes no sense to have an ILS if you fly RNAV approach. If there is RNAV approach instead of ILS, it's for a good reason. So you want to get rid of that. So we can use Tucson VOR. So if we don't know what is the frequency, we can go into the index, nav data, and we have here the nav aid ident, Tango Uniform Sierra. And we get the frequency 116.0. So now I can just set 116.0. 116.0. And I will get my distance to the airport. Done. What we want to do next is brief the go around as well on this approach. So here we said we are coming from Saxi, then we have a 3.18 degrees descent. We go down to the minimum. LNAV, VNAV, it's 3,029. So 3,029. My goodness, this is going to take a long time to set. I don't know, 3,029 we need to set here. And then in case of missed approach, we climb to 6,800 direct to Veggie. And then on track 312 to Pima and Hold. So this is in the box. We are going to check it. And the only thing we will have to do as we are flying an RNAV approach is to arm the LNAV. Make sure it's armed and engaged when you go around, and that will be fine. Transition, 29902 set. 29902 set, passing 17.2. Now compared. We'll do the approach checklist after we finish the setting of our minimum, which will take forever. So 3029. See how she flies. I didn't intervene. I will show you some tips later on with the speed reduction. 3029 is coming now. 29, 3029, 3029. 3029. Here we go. Perfect. So the missed approach, we said we are going to veggie, PIMA, 6000, everything is there, so no problem. So everything is set, we are ready. All right, so let's go for the checklist. Descent checklist, pressurization, landing altitude is set, recall. Checked, auto brake, 2. Landing data, VRF flaps 30 is 145 and the minimum is 3029, set. Approach briefing, completed. Descent checklist completed. Approach checklist, altimeter, we did already, approach checklist completed. Okay, so now you have some points. You see that first green circle right there. This is the 240 knots below 10,000 feet. So the aircraft expects to start reducing the speed here to meet that speed restriction. And this is where the speed will be at 240 knots. Then we are going to fly at 240 knots until we reach decel. Decel point right there, basically on the base sector. This is when she wants some flaps. So now at this point, you will see the speed reducing to the up position. So to basically minimum clean speed. And then you just need to set your flaps, configure your aircraft, and do your landing. So we will try to see how she managed that if I let her do the whole thing by herself. And as you can see now, everything looks good. So we are continuing our approach and approaching Ubeti, then we will probably get our approach clearance.
Southwest 106, you're cleared RNAV Zulu 30.
Southwest 106, Roger, cleared RNAV Zulu runway 30. Okay, so we are clear for the approach. So now we just have to comply with the altitude restrictions. So next page, 8,000 or above, so I'm cleared, so I can go 8,000. Then after Ugeti, 7,000 until we go after Vaxes, where we will descend to 6,200. Now, of course, if I put already 4,500 in the window here, she will comply with all the speed restriction and altitude restriction as long as I'm flying in VNAV path or in VNAV. If you are descending with vertical speed or flight level change, then she will just disregard any altitude restriction, so be very careful. Okay, now we are approaching our 10,000 feet and we are approaching here our first green dot. So now what you will see is a pitch up from the aircraft. And she will start reducing the speed. So she's pitching up and the speed will go down toward 240 knots. So this is now the aircraft target to reduce the speed toward 240 knots to comply with the altitude and speed restrictions below 10,000 feet. So let's see if she's doing that perfectly well or not. See now she's pitching up and the speed is reducing. She expects to finish the speed reductions at this green dot. So right now everything seems to be working pretty well. And what you want to look as well is, are we still on profile? Because if you're getting out of profile, then you need to add some drag to help the aircraft. Now we are pretty good, so I will just let her do the job by herself. And I'm just finishing my coffee here in the cockpit. Beautiful. Arizona. I trained in Phoenix and I flew a lot of time to Tucson as well. So it's nice that I can demonstrate that today. Not the RNAV approach as well, it was with general aviation, but Nice. Okay, we are approaching 10,000 feet. The speed is good. Now she's telling drag required because we are missing a little bit here, 10 knots. So I will just use a little bit of speed brake, otherwise she will level off. And we want her to continue the descent. As you can see now, we are losing the profile. So I put a little bit of drag and we are good. 10,000 feet, lights on. And now we can go to 7,000 feet. So I'll just put 7,000 feet. And you can see how easy you can do your arrival. She managed everything, even telling you when you need to put some flaps. As easy as that.
Southwest 106, altimeter setting is now a 2989er.
Roger, Southwest 106, 2989 on the altimeter. Okay, 2989, reading 8.8 now. Compared, good. So we changed the altimeter setting, all good. Now, the next thing you want to see here is the decel. So right now she's having 240 as target, descending in idle thrust. So that's very nice in terms of fuel saving. So you're doing a good job here. And then at decel point, again, we're expecting the aircraft to slightly pitch up and the speed to drop toward up. And this is for you the signal that you will need to start your configuration, so to slow down the aircraft. So when we fly this kind of non-precision approach, we like to go to flaps 5, bug 5, until we reach our famous 2 miles distance to the final descent point. So let's see how we can do that easily. 1,000 to level off, so now we can go to the next altitude, which is 6,200 feet. Turning on the base.
Southwest 106, wind 1304, runway 30, okay, on land.
Clear to land, runway 30, Southwest 106, thank you. Okay, so we are clear to land, and we are turning now left toward Atoji, 6,200 or above, and we can see as well that we have the decel point. So we are expecting, as I told you, the aircraft to reduce the speed from 240 knots toward up. 1,000 to level off. So she will comply with this. So we're going to go to 4,500, platform altitude for final descent. Set. Decel point. Now you can see the speed reducing toward up. So we expect the speed bug to go to up and the aircraft to reduce the speed. And this is a good sign from the aircraft telling you, hey, I need some flaps now, help me. So usually I wait until the speed is at up speed plus 15, plus 20, below the max flaps speed, which is 250 knots. And now I go flaps 1. So let's go flaps 1. When you go flaps 1, the speed reduces to bug 1 automatically. No problem. Speed is reducing. We can see lateral navigation is good. Vertical navigation is good. Deviation is perfect. We are exactly where we're supposed to be. Now we are about to turn on final. So I can go flaps 5. Speed check, flaps 5. And now the bug goes to 5. And I'm going to put my inbound heading 306. Here we go. We are turning on final. We can see the airport right there. And we are reaching our famous green circle that I told you before. This is 2 miles from Saxi. So what we are going to do there, set MDA, gear down flaps 15. So basically, this is what you have to do. If you forget here to set a lower altitude, you will miss your approach. She will go in VNAV alt, and then will be too high to continue. So that's why this circle is like a reminder. At this point, I need to set a lower altitude. 1000 to level off. She's doing a perfect job. I'm reaching my green circle, so I'm going to set my minimum, 3100. Green circle, 2 miles, gear down. Flaps 15. Do the action. Arm speed brake. Perfect. And by the final approach point here, where you start your final descent toward the runway, you need to be fully configured. So we are 0.5 miles, so let's go flaps 30. And we can do the landing checklist. So engine start switches, continuous speed brake, armed, landing gear, down, flaps, 30 green light. Landing checklist completed. Going down, and now we can check the altitude versus distance. If you're in IMC, it's very important. Now we are in fully VMC, so I will just let her fly, and we will see how she brings us over the threshold. So we just need to set missed approach altitude. So you need to be 300 or lower than the altitude, so 6,800. So by 6,500 we could. We're already way below, so I'm going to set 6,800 as the missed approach altitude. And now we will let her fly all the way down to 500 feet. And then I will take a manual control for the landing. This is to check how she fly the RNAV and the descent profile. As you can see, we are very good. The system sends that we are 47 feet too high, and we will let her fly until almost on the runway, just to see how she performs. Everything looks good. "500 feet, check. And now I will take her manually. Autopilot off, auto throttle off. You can see the profile, the PAPI, we have 3 red, and that corresponds to the indication I have on my PFD. So I'm going to correct for the PAPI. 2 and 2, we are back on profile. And we are going to land. The idea is to cross the threshold at 50 feet. That will be the perfect altitude. And speed brake up, reversers normal. Manual braking. Auto brake is disarmed. Out of reverses. And I'm going to vacate the runway. Here to the right. There we go. Welcome to Tucson, and we can do the after landing with the APU. So now FSI Panel, my first officer, is doing the after landing while I'm concentrating on taxiing the airplane. After landing flow completed. Perfect. Here we go. We landed in Tucson. I hope you learned something today with that approach here, starting from Gila Bend. If you have any question or comment, please drop it in the section down below. I'll be very pleased to answer any of your questions. Thank you for watching. And now I'm going to concentrate for my taxiing. I want to do a single engine taxiing as well using FSI Panel and land the and park the aircraft somewhere here. So thank you guys for watching, and I see you very soon for another training video. Bye-bye.